Hi Year 6 and welcome to your second lesson of your Rainforest Layers work. We are going to the forest floor today. You can hear the rain in the background, hopefully. We are going to the deepest, darkest level of the rainforest, where there is very little sunlight, but plenty of life. So let's go. Over the course of this whole week, we're going to be taking notes about each of the different rainforest layers. We'll watch video clips to build up detailed notes for our writing, and then we will write each section as we go. Hopefully you'll be able to build on your understanding, and your writing skills will develop across the week, and you will create a really fantastic descriptive piece. Okay, you're definitely going to need a notebook and a pen today to make sure you can take plenty of notes. I haven't done a planning sheet because you simply need a page per level of the rainforest, possibly more than one page. So grab something to write with and write on, and then I'll play you some videos and you can make plenty of notes today on this deepest forest floor layer.
The ground layer consists of the soil and all the material lying on top of it. This includes many fallen trees, whose exposed roots reveal a lot about the underlying earth.
You'd have thought with all this lush vegetation around us, you'd have a really rich soil. But this tree's roots tell us a different story. They grow out sideways, but hardly down at all. That's because the soil here is really very poor. What little nutrients there are only held in the top few centimetres.
This is due to the way in which the forest recycles its nutrients. All the dead material lying on the ground is swiftly broken down by insects and fungi to form a thin layer of topsoil. But the process doesn't stop there. The nutrients are quickly soaked up by the surrounding trees, which means they never have a chance to penetrate any deeper into the ground. As a result, the subsoil is pretty infertile. This process is so fast at recycling material that, unlike most other parts of the world, nearly all of the nutrients in the rainforest are held in the trees rather than the soil.
There are 4 layers in the rainforest. The forest floor is the bottom layer. It is gigantic and stretches as far and wide as the forest. It is made up of leaves, roots, shoots, branches, soil, and decaying matter. It is where the roots of the rainforest begin and is a very important part of the rainforest ecosystem. It is where nearly all plant and animal life begins and also where life ends. It is usually shady and damp. This is the perfect habitat for insects, bacteria, and fungi to breed. The forest floor is also the habitat of many other animals, such as large cats and deer, or reptiles like frogs and snakes, who find comfort in the cool shade and can hide away from predators in the undergrowth, or keep a watch their unsuspecting prey. Seeds and fruit fall to the forest floor. If they are not eaten up by an animal or insect, then often the seeds will try to take root and start to begin the journey of growing upwards to the next layer of the rainforest. The rotten fruit, leaves, branches, and animals that die in the rainforest decompose on the forest floor. They leave essential nutrients that are absorbed into the soil. These nutrients are taken in by the trees and plants. They are very important and keep the rainforest healthy. Rivers and streams play a large part in the process of new life and decay. They carry decaying matter and debris through the forest. The minerals and vitamins also crumble into the water and provide healthy nutrients to plants and bacteria in the water and on the riverbanks.
Water, the great sustainer of life in the rainforest. These rivers and streams are the veins and arteries of the rainforest ecosystem.
Now I'm hoping, like me, you've got plenty of detailed notes, but I'm going to go through what I've written down so that you can magpie from my list if you need to, or if you didn't make notes of something in particular that you know you missed in the videos, then now's your opportunity to embellish your notes a little bit further. So I hope you got that it was extremely dark and damp in the deepest depths of the rainforest. I've highlighted those words in purple because actually they're quite poetic, and you've got a bit of alliteration there, and that might be something you want to include in your description today. You might have written that there was very little sunlight reaching here, only 2%. There were many fallen trees in the rainforest, and therefore lots of dead, decaying organic litter. There's some difficult words there, and you may not have understood everything that the narrators meant when you were listening to the videos. So I think we all know what decaying means rotting away. Organic simply means natural, and litter means things that have just been dropped carelessly to the forest floor. So to describe something as littering, it means it's just been left behind. We heard that mushrooms and fungi thrive in these warm, moist, dark conditions. And once you've done your science learning from last week, you'll know a little bit more about fungi and mushrooms from the plant kingdoms that we were looking at in science. These like these dark, moist conditions, and so do the thousands of insects that live here. So species is a way of explaining lots of different varieties of, and thriving. If something thrives, it means it really loves living there. It really does very well in these conditions. So the mushroom, the fungi, the insects, they all do really well on this forest floor. You might have also made a few more notes about what lives in the rainforest. We'll cover that in a minute. They constantly recycle this matter into rich nutrients. So recycling, we know what that means. To use again, to turn it into rich nutrients, means to put goodness back into the soil. And those things are then held just in those top few centimetres of soil. And you saw actually in the video, I'm going to add this one in, that because of this, the not the branches, the roots of the trees therefore grow out sideways. I've just remembered that fact. And that's really important because the roots want to absorb as many of the nutrients as possible. Pop that in there, as many nutrients as possible. Now normally tree roots grow down to provide support for the tree, and they want to seek water, but actually they don't need to go too deep in the rainforest to find water, as most of it's sitting on the top, and we've got those rivers and streams running through the forest as well. I've got a few more notes on my next page. I couldn't fit them all on one page. Let's see. So we talked here about the subsoil in the rainforest is actually rather infertile. So the layers beneath that topsoil level are not holding very much goodness. So that makes them infertile. They're not fertile. And therefore the trees and the plants quickly absorb the nutrients from the topsoil, and therefore most of the rainforest nutrients are held in the trees themselves. Something else you might have included, that the water runs like veins and arteries. Again, I've put that in purple because it's sort of poetic, really. It's a simile through the forest floor, providing life for everything. And the life that lives in the rainforest, we saw there were big cats. I remember seeing a panther walking through the video. Big cats, frogs, and amphibians. It's really wet down here. They like to live down in this plant life and on the floor. There were snakes. And if you got anything else, I can't think of anything else right now off that list, but these are the sorts of animals, are creatures that tend to inhabit rather than live this layer. Inhabit is a better word than saying live in this layer, so we're trying to use as much technical language as we can, be as scientific as we can in our explanations. I'll turn that one brown as well. Okay, I think we've got our notes now. Now, because we're going to be explaining where these things are going on in each level of the rainforest, prepositions of place are going to be really important throughout this piece of writing. I've written you a handful here, which I think might be useful, and some of them are going to be more useful depending on the layer you're writing about. I think for today we might be using words like on and at, below, beneath, within. They're probably the best ones for writing about the forest floor. And then some of these other ones that I've listed here might be better when we get further up into the rainforest layers. So let's see how I've put that into a model right. Okay, so let's get started. Our opener then, on the forest floor. So a preposition to start us off, and then some brackets. On the forest floor, the lowest layer of the rainforest, there exists countless species of insects. However, very little plant life can survive down here, because only 2% of sunlight ever reaches this layer. Within this layer, there are many fallen trees, as well as much dead organic litter. The millions of insects which thrive here constantly recycle this matter into rich nutrients, which are then held in just the top few centimetres of soil. The subsoil in the rainforest is actually rather infertile, since the plants and trees quickly absorb the nutrients from the topsoil. Consequently, most of the rainforest nutrients are held in the trees themselves. They have developed the ability to grow their roots out sideways, rather than downwards, to enable them to absorb as much goodness from the soil as possible. Now, this last sentence I've done in red, and that's because I want you to identify what it does for the reader. Because it is so dark in the deepest depths of the rainforest, it is not until the next layer up that the fight for life between the plants really begins. Have a pause of the video and have a think, what does that sentence do? Now, I'm hoping that you worked out that that's our link sentence. It's the sentence that tells the reader what they're going to be reading about next in your piece of work. And that's really important in your writing, that you're starting to make those links between paragraphs. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next section, because for today's writing, we just need to put a link sentence on at the very end. Okay, let's have a look at the next paragraph I've done. It's the same content, it's still the forest floor. We need to add a link sentence to the end, and we can do that together. So, located, different preposition, a verb there, located at the very lowest level of the rainforest is the forest floor. Teeming with life, this layer plays a vital role within this entire ecosystem. However, because of the dense forest and vast canopy above, very little light actually penetrates through to the floor. In fact, only 2% of light reaches this level. This makes it a very dark, damp and moist environment where fungi and mushrooms thrive, as well as countless numbers of tiny insects, all of which continuously recycle the dead and decaying organic matter, which litters the forest floor. They rapidly turn this matter into rich nutrients, which are then quickly absorbed by the plants and the trees. And add on a sentence at the end here, then I'll put it in red so we can see it. However, it is not until we move to the next layer of the rainforest that we really see a fight for sunlight and life begin. So you can see in that paragraph it's exactly the same information, it's just been presented in a different way. We've got different sentence openers, still highlighted that scientific and technical language that really important in this type of writing because it's factual, and we need to be sure we're not using the incorrect terminology and that our reader really understands what we're writing about. Now, I've put you some sentence openers on here, some useful prepositional openers and phrases. On the forest floor, at the lowest level of the rainforest, within this lowest layer there exists, because this is the lowest layer of the rainforest, or down at the lowest level of the rainforest. You can start your rainforest floor section using one of these examples, and then as you develop your ideas you can use some explanation conjunctions here, and I've popped a couple in sentences here to show you how I want your ideas developed. On the forest floor, only 2% of the sunlight actually penetrates through to this layer, therefore it is incredibly dark down here. So you are not just writing a list of facts, you are explaining those facts. Here's another example. Within this lowest level of the rainforest there are countless insects. Consequently, any dead or decaying matter is rapidly decomposed. So, using these explanation conjunctions, you are linking some of the ideas together, and that makes the writing flow together far better than if we just write it as a list of facts. We need to remember, Year 6, that we cannot just write a bunch of facts and turn that into a paragraph. We need to be thinking about how our sentences are formed and how we do this so that it makes a nice read for our reader. Now, if we go back to the earlier model I did for you, you can see how I've done this in my own writing. We've got words like however to link ideas together here. Within this layer, I've got an explanation there, and then I've got a semicolon linking two pieces of information. We mustn't list this as mustn't write this piece of work as simple lists, so we do need to think about how we link our ideas together. I haven't got a very interesting opener here, so I probably would up-level this one to interestingly, comma, I'll change that to a small t. Interestingly, the subsoil in the rainforest is actually rather infertile. Sounds much better than the subsoil is rather infertile. So trying to up-level those sentence openers as you go back into your work is a really good skill and something that I am asking many of you to do when you're sending me your writing in. So have a look at that. Also have a look at this range of punctuation I've used. Can you use some brackets to add extra information about some of these key words or phrases that you're including? Can you use a dash to add something interesting to the end of your sentence? Can you link some of your ideas together with semicolons? I'm looking forward to reading your work this week, Year 6. Just going to look at the last thing that I want you to think about, and that is a bit of a checklist. So when you self-assess your paragraph today, I want you to look for your technical language. You could underline it even, identifying it, your prepositional phrases to open your sentences, an explanation, conjunctions, your therefore, consequently, as a result, words that link ideas together and explain why things are as they are, and a range of punctuation. And if you haven't included any of those things, go back into your writing and, just like I've done, do some editing. I look forward to reading these. Okay, good luck, Year 6.